Japan is an island country in East Asia. Located in the Pacific Ocean off the northeast coast of the Asian mainland, it is bordered on the west by the Sea of Japan and extends from the Sea of Okhotsk in the north to the East China Sea in the south. The Japanese archipelago consists of 4 major islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu, and thousands of smaller islands, covering 377,975 square kilometers. Japan has a population of nearly 124 million as of 2024, making her the 11th most populous country. The capital of Japan and its largest city is Tokyo. The Greater Tokyo area is the largest metropolitan area in the world with more than 37 million people as of 2024. Japan is divided into 47 administrative prefectures and 8 traditional regions. About 3/4 of the country's terrain is mountainous and heavily forested, concentrating its agriculture and highly urbanized population along its eastern coastal plains. The country sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, making its islands prone to destructive earthquakes and tsunamis. The first known habitation of the archipelago dates to Upper Paleolithic, with the beginning Japanese Paleolithic dating to c. 36,000 BC. Between the 4th and 6th centuries, its kingdoms were united under an emperor in Noro and later Heian Ky. From 12th century, actual power was held by military dictators, shogun, feudal lords, daimyo, and enforced by warrior nobility, samurai. After rule by the Kamakura and Ashikaga shogunates and a century of warring states, Japan was unified in 1600 by the Tokugawa shogunate, which implemented an isolationist foreign policy. In 1853, United States fleet forced Japan to open trade to the west, which led to the end of the shogunate and the restoration of imperial power in 1868. In the Meiji period, the Empire of Japan pursued rapid industrialization and modernization, as well as militarism and overseas colonization. In 1937, Japan invaded China and in 1941 attacked the United States and European colonial powers, entering World War II as an Axis power. After suffering defeat in the Pacific War and 2 atomic bombings, Japan surrendered in 1945 and came under Allied occupation. After the war, the country underwent rapid economic growth and became a major non-NATO ally of the United States, although its economy has stagnated since 1990. Japan is a constitutional monarchy with a bicameral legislature, the National Diet. A great power and the only Asian member of the G7, Japan has constitutionally renounced its right to declare war but maintains one of the world's strongest militaries. A developed country with one of the world's largest economies by nominal GDP, Japan is a global leader in science, technology, automotive, robotics, and electronics industries. It has one of the world's highest life expectancies, though it is undergoing a population decline. Japan's culture is well known around the world, including art, cuisine, film, music, and popular culture, which includes prominent animation, comics, and video game industries. Japan comprises 14,125 islands extending along the Pacific coast of Asia. It stretches over 3,000 kilometers northeast-southwest from the Sea of Okhotsk to the East China Sea. The country's 5 main islands from north to south are Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu, and Okinawa. The Ryukyu Islands, which include Okinawa, are a chain to the south of Kyushu. The Namp Islands are south and east of the main islands of Japan. Together, they are often known as the Japanese archipelago. As of 2019, Japan's territory is 377,975.24 kilometers square. Japan has the 6th longest coastline in the world at 29,751 kilometers. Because of its far-flung outlying islands, Japan's exclusive economic zone is the 8th largest in the world, covering 4,470,000 kilometers square. The Japanese archipelago is 67% forests and 14% agricultural. The rugged and mountainous terrain is restricted for habitation. Thus, the habitable zones, mainly in the coastal areas, have very high population densities. Japan is the 40th most densely populated country, even without considering that local concentration. Honshu has the highest population density at 450 persons per kilometers square as of 2010, while Hokkaido has the lowest density of 64.5 persons per kilometers square as of 2016. As of 2014, Approximately 0.5% of Japan's total area is reclaimed land. Lake Biwa is an ancient lake and the country's largest freshwater lake. Japan is substantially prone to earthquakes, tsunami, and volcanic eruptions because of its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire. It has the 17th highest natural disaster risk as measured in the 2016 World Risk Index. Japan has 111 active volcanoes. Destructive earthquakes, often resulting in tsunami, occur several times each century. The 1923 Tokyo earthquake killed over 140,000 people. More recent major quakes are the 1995 Great Hanshin earthquake and the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, which triggered a large tsunami. The climate of Japan is predominantly temperate but varies greatly from north to south. The northernmost region, Hokkaido, has humid continental climate with long, cold winters and very warm to cool summers. Precipitation is not heavy, but the islands usually develop deep snowbanks in the winter. In the Sea of Japan region on Honshu's west coast, northwest winter winds bring heavy snowfall during winter. In summer, the region sometimes experiences extremely hot temperatures because of the firn. The Central Highland has a typical inland humid continental climate with large temperature differences between summer and winter. The mountains of Chugoku and Shikoku regions shelter the Seto Inland Sea from seasonal winds, bringing mild weather year-round. The Pacific coast features humid subtropical climate that experiences milder winters with occasional snowfall and hot, humid summers because of the southeast seasonal wind. Ryukyu and Namp Islands have subtropical climate with warm winters and hot summers. Precipitation is very heavy, especially during rainy season. The main rainy season begins in early May in Okinawa and the rain front gradually moves north. In late summer and early autumn, typhoons often bring heavy rain. According to Environment Ministry, heavy rainfall and increasing temperatures caused problems in the agricultural industry and elsewhere. The highest temperature ever measured in Japan, 41.1 degrees Celsius, was recorded on the 23rd of July, 2018 and repeated on the 17th of August, 2020. Japan has 9 forest ecoregions which reflect the climate and geography of the islands. They range from subtropical moist broadleaf forests in Ryukyu and Bonin Islands, to temperate broadleaf and mixed forests in the mild climate regions of the main islands, to temperate coniferous forests in the cold, winter portions of the northern islands. Japan has 90,000 species of wildlife as of 2019, including brown bear, Japanese macaque, Japanese raccoon dog, small Japanese field mouse and Japanese giant salamander. There are 53 Ramsar wetland sites in Japan. 5 sites have been inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List for their outstanding natural value. Japan has the world's 4th largest economy by nominal GDP, after United States, China, and Germany, and 5th largest economy by PPP-adjusted GDP. As of 2021, Japan's labor force is the world's 8th largest, consisting of over 68.6 million workers. As of 2022, Japan has low unemployment rate of around 2.6%. Japanese yen is the world's 3rd largest reserve currency after US dollar and euro. Japan was the world's 5th largest exporter and 4th largest importer in 2022. Its exports amounted to 18.2% of its total GDP in 2021. As of 2022, Japan's main export markets were China and the United States. Its main exports are motor vehicles, iron, steel products, semiconductors, and auto parts. Japan's main import markets as of 2022 were China, the United States, and Australia. Japan's main imports are machinery and equipment, fossil fuels, foodstuffs, chemicals, and raw materials for its industries. The Japanese agricultural sector accounts for 1.2% of the country's total GDP as of 2018. Only 11.5% of Japan's land is suitable for cultivation. Because of this lack of arable land, a system of terraces is used to farm in small areas. This results in one of the world's highest levels of crop yields per unit area, with an agricultural self-sufficiency rate of about 50% as of 2018. Japan's small agricultural sector is highly subsidized and protected. There are growing concern about farming as farmers are aging with difficult time finding successors. Japan ranked 7th in the world in tonnage of fish caught and captured 3,167,610 metric tons of fish in 2016, down from an annual average of 4 million tons over the previous decade. Japan maintains one of the world's largest fishing fleets. Japan has a large industrial capacity and is home to some of the largest and most technologically advanced producers of motor vehicles, machine tools, steel and non-ferrous metals, ships, chemical substances, textiles and processed foods. Japan is in the top 3 globally for both automobile production and export and is home to Toyota, the world's largest automobile company by vehicle production. The country has produced 22 Nobel laureates in either physics, chemistry or medicine and 3 Fields medalists. Japan leads the world in robotics production and use, supplying 45% of the world's 2020 total, down from 55% in 2017. Japan has the second highest number of researchers in science and technology per capita in the world with 14 per 1,000 employees. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency is Japan's national space agency. It conducts space, planetary, and aviation research and leads development of rockets and satellites. It is a participant in the International Space Station. The Japanese Experiment Module, KIB, was added to the station during Space Shuttle assembly flights in 2008. The space probe Akatsuki was launched in 2010 and achieved orbit around Venus in 2015. Japan's plans in space exploration include building a moon base and landing astronauts by 2030. In 2007, it launched Lunar Explorer Selene, Selenological and Engineering Explorer, from Tanegashima Space Center. The largest lunar mission since the Apollo program, its purpose was to gather data on the moon's origin and evolution. The Explorer entered a lunar orbit on the 4th of October, 2007 and deliberately crashed into the moon on the 11th of June, 2009. Japan invested heavily in transportation infrastructure since the 1990s. Since privatization in 1987, dozens of Japanese railway companies compete in regional and local passenger transportation markets. Major companies include 7 Junior Enterprises, Kintetsu, Cebu Railway, and Kyo Corporation. The high-speed Shinkansen, bullet trains, that connect major cities are known for safety and punctuality. There are 175 airports in Japan as of 2021. The largest domestic airport, Haneda Airport in Tokyo, was Asia's second busiest airport in 2019. The Kihin and Hanshin superport hubs are among the largest in the world. Japan has a population of almost 125 million, of whom nearly 122 million are Japanese nationals as at 2022. A small population of foreign residents makes up the remainder. Japan is the world's fastest aging country and has the highest proportion of elderly citizens of any country, comprising 1/3 of its total population. This is the result of a post-World War II baby boom which was followed by an increase in life expectancy and a decrease in birth rates. As of 2020, over 28.7% of the population is over 65 or more than 1 in 4 out of the Japanese population. As a growing number of younger Japanese are not marrying or remaining childless, Japan's population is expected to drop to around 88 million by 2065. The changes in demographic structure have created several social issues, particularly a decline in the workforce population and an increase in the cost of social security benefits. The government of Japan projects that there will be almost 1 elderly person for each person of working age by 2060. In 2022, 92% of the total Japanese population lived in cities. The capital city, Tokyo, has a population of 13.9 million as at 2022. It is part of the Greater Tokyo Area, the biggest metropolitan area in the world with 37.4 million people as at 2024. Japan is an ethnically and culturally homogeneous society with the Japanese people forming 97.4% of the country's population. Minority ethnic groups in the country include indigenous Ainu and Ryukyuan people, Zainichi Koreans, Chinese, Filipinos, Brazilians mostly of Japanese descent and Peruvians mostly of Japanese descent are also among Japan's small minority groups. Borokumin make up a social minority group. Japanese language is Japan's de facto national language and written and spoken language of most people in the country. Japanese writing uses kanji, Chinese characters, and 2 sets of kana, syllabaries based on cursive script and radicals used by kanji, as well as the Latin alphabet and Arabic numerals. English has taken a major role in Japan as business and international link language, and is a compulsory subject at junior and senior high school levels. Besides Japanese, the Ryukyuan languages, Amami, Kunigami, Okinawan, Miyako, Yayama, Yonaguni, part of Japonic language family, are spoken in the Ryukyu Islands chain. Few children learn these languages, but local governments have sought to increase awareness of the traditional languages. The Ainu language, which is a language isolate, is moribund, with only a few native speakers remaining as of 2014. Additionally, a number of other languages are taught and used by ethnic minorities, immigrant communities, and a growing number of foreign language students such as Korean, including a distinct Zainichi Korean dialect, Chinese and Portuguese. Japan's constitution guarantees full religious freedom. Upper estimates suggest that 84 to 96% of Japanese population subscribe to Shinto as its indigenous religion. However, these estimates are based on people affiliated with a temple, rather than the number of true believers. Many Japanese people practice both Shinto and Buddhism. They can identify with both religions or describe themselves as non-religious or spiritual. The level of participation in religious ceremonies as cultural tradition remains high, especially during festivals and occasions such as the first shrine visit of the new year. Today, 1% to 1.5% of the population are Christians. Throughout the latest century, Western customs originally related to Christianity, including Western-style weddings, Valentine's Day, and Christmas, have become popular as secular customs among many Japanese. About 90% of those practicing Islam in Japan are foreign-born migrants as of 2016. As of 2018, there were 105 mosques and 200,000 Muslims in Japan, 43,000 of which were Japanese nationals. Other minority religions include Hinduism, Judaism, and Bahá'í faith, as well as the animist beliefs of the Ainu. Since 1947 Fundamental Law of Education, compulsory education in Japan comprises elementary and junior high school, which together last for 9 years. Almost all children continue their education at a 3-year senior high school. The top-ranking university in the country is the University of Tokyo. Starting April 2016, various schools began the academic year with elementary school and junior high school integrated into one 9-year compulsory schooling program. MEXT plans for this approach to be adopted nationwide. Healthcare in Japan is provided by national and local governments. Payment for personal medical services is offered through a universal health insurance system that provides relative equality of access, with fees set by a government committee. People without insurance through employers can participate in a national health insurance program administered by local governments. Since 1973, all elderly persons have been covered by government-sponsored insurance. Contemporary Japanese culture combines influences from Asia, Europe, and North America. Traditional Japanese arts include crafts such as ceramics, textiles, lacquerware, swords, and dolls, performances of bunraku, kabuki, no, dance, rakugo, and other practices. Tea ceremony, ikebana, martial arts, calligraphy, origami, onsen, geisha, and games. Japan has a developed system for the protection and promotion of both tangible and intangible cultural properties and national treasures. 22 sites inscribed on UNESCO World Heritage List, 18 of which are of cultural significance. Japan is considered a cultural superpower. History of Japanese painting exhibits synthesis and competition between native Japanese aesthetics and imported ideas. The interaction between Japanese and European art has been significant. For example, ukiyo-e prints, which began to be exported in the 19th century in the movement known as Japanism, had a significant influence on the development of modern art in the West, most notably on post-impressionism. Japanese architecture is a combination of local and other influences. It has traditionally been typified by wooden or mud plaster structures, elevated slightly off the ground, with tiled or thatched roofs. Traditional housing and many temple buildings see the use of tatami mats and sliding doors that break down the distinction between rooms and indoor and outdoor space. Since the 19th century, Japan has incorporated much of Western modern architecture into construction and design. It was not until after World War II that Japanese architects made an impression on the international scene, firstly with the work of architects like Ken's Tange and then with movements like metabolism. Japanese music is eclectic and diverse. Many instruments, such as the koto, were introduced in the 9th and 10th centuries. The popular folk music, with the guitar-like shamisen, dates from the 16th century. Western classical music, introduced in the late 19th century, forms an integral part of Japanese culture. Kumidaiko, ensemble drumming, was developed in post-war Japan and became very popular in North America. Popular music in post-war Japan has been heavily influenced by American and European trends, which has led to the evolution of J-pop. Karaoke is a significant cultural activity. The 4 traditional theaters from Japan are No, Kaigan, Kabuki, and Bunraku. No is one of the oldest continuous theater traditions in the world. Officially, Japan has 16 national, government-recognized holidays. Public holidays in Japan are regulated by the Public Holiday Law of 1948. Beginning in 2000, Japan implemented the Happy Monday system, which moved a number of national holidays to Monday in order to obtain a long weekend. The national holidays in Japan are New Year's Day on the 1st of January, Coming of Age Day on the 2nd Monday of January, National Foundation Day on February 11th, Emperor's Birthday on February 23rd, Vernal Equinox Day on March 20th or 21, Shwa Day on April 29th, Constitution Memorial Day on May 3rd, Greenery Day on May 4th, Children's Day on May 5th, Marine Day on the 3rd Monday of July, Mountain Day on August 11th, Respect for the Aged Day on the 3rd Monday of September, Autumnal Equinox on September 23rd or 24, Health and Sports Day on the 2nd Monday of October, Culture Day on November 3rd, and Labor Thanksgiving Day on November 23rd. Japanese cuisine offers a vast array of regional specialties that use traditional recipes and local ingredients. Seafood and Japanese rice or noodles are traditional staples. Japanese curry, since its introduction to Japan from British India, is so widely consumed that it can be termed a national dish, alongside ramen and sushi. Traditional Japanese sweets are known as wagashi. Ingredients such as red bean paste and mochi are used. More modern-day tastes include green tea ice cream. Popular Japanese beverages include sake, a brewed rice beverage that typically contains 14 to 17% alcohol and is made by multiple fermentation of rice. Beer has been brewed in Japan since the late 17th century. Green tea is produced in Japan and prepared in forms such as matcha, used in the Japanese tea ceremony. Traditionally, sumo is considered Japan's national sport. Japanese martial arts such as judo and kendo are taught as part of the compulsory junior high school curriculum. Baseball is the most popular sport in the country. Japan's top professional league, Nippon Professional Baseball, was established in 1936. Since the establishment of the Japan Professional Football League, J-League, in 1992, association football gained a wide following. The country co-hosted the 2002 FIFA World Cup with South Korea. Japan has one of the most successful football teams in Asia, winning the Asian Cup 4 times and the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2011. Golf is also popular in Japan. Modern humans arrived in Japan around 38,000 years ago, marking the beginning of Japanese Paleolithic. This was followed from around 14,500 BC, the start of the Jaimin period, by Mesolithic to Neolithic semi-sedentary hunter-gatherer culture characterized by pit-dwelling and rudimentary agriculture. Clay vessels from the period are among the oldest surviving examples of pottery. The Japonic-speaking Yayoi people entered the archipelago from Korean peninsula, intermingling with the Jaimin. The Yayoi period saw the introduction of practices including wet rice farming, a new style of pottery and metallurgy from China and Korea. According to legend, Emperor Jimmu, descendant of Amaterasu, founded a kingdom in central Japan in 660 BC, beginning a continuous imperial line. Japan first appears in written history in the Chinese Book of Han, completed in 111 AD. Buddhism was introduced to Japan from Beech, a Korean kingdom, in 552, but the development of Japanese Buddhism was primarily influenced by China. Despite early resistance, Buddhism was promoted by the ruling class, including figures like Prince Shotoku, and gained widespread acceptance beginning in the Asuka period, 592 to 710. In 645, The government led by Prince Naka no Ii and Fujiwara no Kamatari devised and implemented the far-reaching Taika reforms. The reform began with land reform, based on Confucian ideas and philosophies from China. 30. It nationalized all land in Japan, to be distributed equally among cultivators, and ordered the compilation of a household registry as the basis for a new system of taxation. 31. The true aim of the reforms was to bring about greater centralization and to enhance the power of the imperial court, which was also based on the governmental structure of China. Envoys and students were dispatched to China to learn about Chinese writing, politics, art, and religion. 30. The Jinshin War of 672, a bloody conflict between Prince Ama and his nephew Prince Tomo, became a major catalyst for further administrative reforms. 32. These reforms culminated with the promulgation of the Tai Code, which consolidated existing statutes and established the structure of the central and subordinate local governments. 31. These legal reforms created the Ritsuri state, a system of Chinese-style centralized government that remained in place for half a millennium. 32. The Noro period, 710 to 784, marked the emergence of a Japanese state centered on the imperial court in Hige-ky, modern Noro. The period is characterized by the appearance of a nascent literary culture with the completion of the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, as well as the development of Buddhist-inspired artwork and architecture. A smallpox epidemic in 735 to 737 is believed to killed as much as one-third of Japan's population. In 784, Emperor Kanmu moved the capital, settling on Heian-ky, modern-day Kyoto, in 794. This marked the beginning of Heian period, 794 to 1185, during which a distinctly indigenous Japanese culture emerged. Murasaki Shikibu's The Tale of Genji and the lyrics of Japan's national anthem Kimigayo were written during this time. Japan's feudal era was characterized by the emergence and dominance of a ruling class of warriors, the samurai. In 1185, following the defeat of the Taira clan by the Minamoto clan in the Genpei War, Samurai Minamoto no Yoritomo established a military government at Kamakura. After Yoritomo's death, the HJ clan came to power as regents for the shogun. The Zen school of Buddhism was introduced from China in the Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, and became popular among the samurai class. The Kamakura shogunate repelled Mongol invasions in 1274 and 1281 but was eventually overthrown by Emperor Go-Daigo. Go-Daigo was defeated by Ashikaga Takauji in 1336, beginning Muromachi period, 1336 to 1573. The succeeding Ashikaga shogunate failed to control the feudal warlords, daimi, and a civil war began in 1467, opening the century-long Sengo period, warring states. During 16th century, Portuguese traders and Jesuit missionaries reached Japan for the first time, initiating direct commercial and cultural exchange between Japan and the West. Oda Nobunaga used European technology and firearms to conquer many other daimi. His consolidation of power began what was known as the Azuchi Momoyama period. After the death of Nobunaga in 1582, his successor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, unified the nation in the early 1590s and launched two unsuccessful invasions of Korea in 1592 and 1597. Tokugawa Ieyasu served as regent for Hideyoshi's son Toyotomi Hideyori and used his position to gain political and military support. When open war broke out, Ieyasu defeated rival clans in Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. He was appointed shogun by Emperor Go-Izei in 1603 and established Tokugawa shogunate at Edo, modern Tokyo. The shogunate enacted measures including Buke Shahato as a code of conduct to control the autonomous daimi and in 1639 the isolationist Sakoku, closed country, policy that spanned 2.5 centuries of tenuous political unity known as the Edo period, 1603 to 1868. Modern Japan's economic growth began in this period, resulting in roads and water transportation routes, as well as financial instruments such as futures contracts, banking and insurance of the Osaka rice brokers. The study of Western sciences, Rangaku, continued through contact with the Dutch enclave in Nagasaki. The Edo period gave rise to Kokugaku, national studies, the study of Japan by the Japanese. The United States Navy sent Commodore Matthew C. Perry to force the opening of Japan to the outside world. Arriving at Uraga with 4 black ships in July 1853, the Perry expedition resulted in the March 1854 Convention of Kanagawa. Subsequent similar treaties with other Western countries brought economic and political crises. The resignation of the shogun led to Boshin War and establishment of centralized state nominally unified under the emperor, the Meiji Restoration. Adopting Western political, judicial, and military institutions, the cabinet organized the Privy Council, introduced the Meiji Constitution, November 29, 1890, and assembled the Imperial Diet. During the Meiji period, 1868 to 1912, the Empire of Japan emerged as the most developed state in Asia and as an industrialized world power that pursued military conflict to expand its sphere of influence. After victories in the First Sino-Japanese War, 1894 to 1895, and the Russo-Japanese War, 1904 to 1905, Japan gained control of Taiwan, Korea, and the southern half of Sakhalin and annexed Korea in 1910. The Japanese population doubled from 35 million in 1873 to 70 million by 1935, with a significant shift to urbanization. Early 20th century saw a period of Taoist democracy, 1912 to 1926, overshadowed by increasing expansionism and militarization. World War I allowed Japan, which joined the side of the victorious Allies, to capture German possessions in the Pacific and China in 1920. The 1920s saw a political shift towards statism, a period of lawlessness following 1923 Great Tokyo Earthquake, the passing of laws against political dissent and series of attempted coups. This process accelerated during the 1930s, spawning several radical nationalist groups that shared hostility to liberal democracy and a dedication to expansion in Asia. In 1931, Japan invaded China and occupied Manchuria, which led to the establishment of puppet state of Manchukuo in 1932. Following international condemnation of the occupation, it resigned from the League of Nations in 1933. In 1936, Japan signed Anti-Comintern Pact with Nazi Germany. The 1940 Tripartite Pact made it one of the Axis powers. The Empire of Japan invaded other parts of China in 1937, precipitating Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937 to 1945. In 1940, the empire invaded French Indochina, after which the United States placed an oil embargo on Japan. On December 7 to 8, 1941, Japanese forces carried out surprise attacks on Pearl Harbor as well as on British forces in Malaya, Singapore, and Hong Kong, among others, beginning World War II in the Pacific. After Allied victories during the next 4 years, which culminated in the Soviet invasion of Manchuria and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Japan agreed to an unconditional surrender. The war cost Japan millions of lives, and its colonies, including de jure parts of Japan such as Korea, Taiwan, Karafuto, and the Kurils. The Allies, led by United States, repatriated millions of Japanese settlers from their former colonies and military camps throughout Asia, largely eliminating the Japanese Empire and its influence over the territories it conquered. The Allies convened International Military Tribunal for the Far East to prosecute Japanese leaders except Emperor for Japanese war crimes. In 1947, Japan adopted a new constitution emphasizing liberal democratic practices. The Allied occupation ended with the Treaty of San Francisco in 1952, and Japan was granted membership in the United Nations in 1956. A period of record growth propelled Japan to become the second largest economy in the world. This ended in the mid-1990s after the popping of an asset price bubble, beginning the lost decade. In 2011, Japan suffered one of the largest earthquakes in its recorded history. The Tohoku earthquake, triggering the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. On May 1, 2019, after the historic abdication of Emperor Akihito, his son Naruhito became emperor, beginning the Reiwa era. Mount Fuji is an active stratovolcano located on the Japanese island of Honshu, with a summit elevation of 3,776.24 meters. It is the highest mountain in Japan, the second highest volcano located on an island in Asia, after Mount Kerinci on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, and seventh highest peak of an island on Earth. Mount Fuji last erupted from 1707 to 1708. The mountain is located about 100 kilometers southwest of Tokyo and is visible from the Japanese capital on clear days. Mount Fuji's exceptionally symmetrical cone, which is covered in snow for about 5 months of the year, is commonly used as a cultural icon of Japan and is frequently depicted in art and photography, as well as visited by sightseers, hikers, and mountain climbers. Mount Fuji is one of Japan's 3 holy mountains, along with Mount Tate and Mount Haku. It is a special place of scenic beauty and one of Japan's historic sites. It was added to the World Heritage List as a cultural site on June 22, 2013. According to UNESCO, Mount Fuji has inspired artists and poets and been the object of pilgrimage for centuries. UNESCO recognizes 25 sites of cultural interest within the Mount Fuji locality. These 25 locations include the mountain and the Shinto shrine, Fujisan Hong Senjen Taisha. The forest at the northwest base of the mountain is named Akigahara. Folk tales and legends tell of ghosts, demons, irai, and ikai haunting the forest, and in the 19th century, many hikers mark their routes by leaving colored plastic tape behind as they pass, raising concern among prefectural officials about the forest's ecosystem. The closest airport with scheduled international service is Mount Fuji Shizuoka Airport. It opened in June 2009. It is about 80 kilometers from Mount Fuji. The major international airports serving Tokyo, Tokyo International Airport, Haneda Airport, in Tokyo and Narita International Airport in Chiba are approximately 3 hours and 15 minutes from Mount Fuji. Approximately 300,000 people climbed Mount Fuji in 2009. The most popular period for people to hike up Mount Fuji is from July to August, while huts and other facilities are operating and the weather is warmest. Buses to the trailheads typically used by climbers start running on July 1st. Climbing from October to May is very strongly discouraged, after a number of high-profile deaths and severe cold weather. Most Japanese climb the mountain at night in order to be in a position at or near the summit when the sun rises. The morning light is called Garake, arrival of light. There are 4 major routes to the summit, each has numbered stations along the way. They are, clockwise, starting North Kawaguchiko, Subashiri, Gotemba, and Fujinomiya routes. Climbers usually start at the 5th stations, as these are reachable by car or by bus. The summit is the 10th station on each trail. The stations on different routes are at different elevations. The highest 5th station is located at Fujinomiya, followed by Yoshida, Subashiri, and Gotemba. There are 4 additional routes from the foot of the mountain: Shojiko, Yoshida, Suiyama, and Murayama routes. Even though it has only the 2nd highest 5th station, the Yoshida route is the most popular route because of its large parking area and many large mountain huts where a climber can rest or stay. During the summer season, most Mount Fuji climbing tour buses arrive there. The next most popular is the Fujinomiya route, which has the highest 5th station, followed by Subashiri and Gotemba. The ascent from the new 5th station can take anywhere between 5 and 7 hours, while the descent can take from 3 to 4 hours. Even though most climbers do not use the Subashiri and Gotemba routes, many descend these because of their ash-covered paths. From the 7th station to near the 5th station, one could run down these ash-covered paths in approximately 30 minutes. There are also tractor routes along the climbing routes. These tractor routes are used to bring food and other materials to huts on the mountain. Because the tractors usually take up most of the width of these paths and they tend to push large rocks from the side of the path, the tractor paths are off-limits to the climbers on sections that are not merged with the climbing or descending paths. Nevertheless, one can sometimes see people riding mountain bikes along the tractor routes down from the summit. This is particularly risky, as it becomes difficult to control speed and may send some rocks rolling along the side of the path, which may hit other people. The 4 routes from the foot of the mountain offer historical sites. The Murayama is the oldest route, and the Yoshida route still has many old shrines, tea houses, and huts along its path. These routes are gaining popularity recently and are being restored, but climbing from the foot of the mountain is still relatively uncommon. Bears that live on the mountain have been sighted along the Yoshida route. Huts at and above the 5th stations are usually staffed during the climbing season, but huts below 5th stations are not usually staffed for climbers. The number of open huts on routes are proportional to the number of climbers. Yoshida has the most while Gotemba has the fewest. The huts along the Gotemba route also tend to start later and close earlier than those along the Yoshida route. Also, because Mount Fuji is designated as a national park, it is illegal to camp above the 5th station. There are 8 peaks around the crater at the summit. The highest point in Japan, Kenga Mine, is where the Mount Fuji radar system used to be. It was replaced by an automated system in 2004. Climbers are able to visit each of these peaks. Paragliders take off in the vicinity of the 5th station Gotemba parking lot, between Subashiri and Heizon Peak on the south side of the mountain, in addition to several other locations, depending on wind direction. Several paragliding schools use the wide sandy grassy slope between Gotemba and Subashiri parking lots as a training hill. Over-tourism concerns. On the 1st of February 2024, the Yamanashi prefectural government imposed a mandatory fee of 2,000 yen, $13, for hikers using the Yoshida Trail beginning in the summer season as part of efforts to ease congestion and provide funding for safety protocols. It later announced that it would impose a daily limit of 4,000 hikers on the trail and close it between 4 p.m. and 3 a.m. except for guests in mountain lodges. The Shizuoka prefectural government subsequently announced that it would also close the Subashiri, Gotemba, and Fujinomiya trails at the same time period with the same exceptions, citing also concerns over congestion. In Shinto mythology, Kuninoto Katachi is one of the 2 gods born from something like a reed that arose from the soil when the earth was chaotic. According to the Nihon Shoki, Konohana Sakuya Hime, wife of Ninigi, is the goddess of Mount Fuji, where Fujisan Hongsen Taisha is dedicated for her. In ancient times, the mountain was worshipped from afar. The Asama Shrine was set up at the foothills to ward off eruptions. In the Heian period, 794 to 1185, volcanic activity subsided and Fuji was used as a base for Shugand, a syncretic religion combining mountain worship and Buddhism. Worshippers began to climb the slopes, and by the early 12th century, Matsudai Shonin had founded a temple on the summit. Fujike was an Edo period cult centered around the mountain founded by an ascetic named Hasegawa Kakugi, 1541 to 1646. The cult venerated the mountain as a female deity, and encouraged its members to climb it. In doing so they would be reborn, purified and able to find happiness. The cult waned in the Meiji period, and although it persists to this day, it has been subsumed into Shinto sects. As a national symbol of the country, the mountain has been depicted in various art media such as paintings, woodblock prints, such as Hokusai's 36 Views of Mount Fuji and 100 Views of Mount Fuji from the 1830s, poetry, music, theater, film, manga, anime, pottery, and even kawaii subculture. Before its explosive eruption in 1980, Mount St. Helens was once known as the Fuji of America for its striking resemblance to Mount Fuji. Mount Taranaki in New Zealand is also said to bear a resemblance to Mount Fuji, and for this reason has been used as a stand-in for the mountain in films and television. Tsukiji is a district of Tokyo, Japan. Literally meaning reclaimed land, it lies near the Sumida River on land reclaimed from Tokyo Bay in the 18th century during the Edo period. The eponymous Tsukiji Fish Market opened in 1935 and closed in 2018 when its operations were moved to the new Toyosu Market. There are also districts named Tsukiji in Kobe and Amagasaki, cities in Higo Prefecture, although neither is as well known as the district in Tokyo. For many residents and visitors to Tokyo, the central wholesale market, better known as the Tsukiji Fish Market, was synonymous with sushi, sashimi, and seafood products of every kind. While the inner market moved in October 2018 to the new Toyosu Market, the many small neighborhood restaurants, restaurant supply stores and retail operations in the outer market have remained and act as a major culinary tourist destination. Tsukiji was the largest fish market in the world, handling more than 2,000 tons of 450 types of seafood daily. Tsukiji Honganji, a key temple of the Jaido Shinto sect of Buddhism. Inside the temple is a small memorial to deceased popular rock star Hyde. The Sumida River, the Tsukiji riverbank, has pedestrian access north of the Kachidoki Bridge. Quieter backstreets of Tsukiji still feature some older properties and storefronts clad in copper tiles used in the early Showa period as a means of weatherproofing and distinctive architectural decoration. St. Luke's Garden, one of Tokyo's taller buildings containing offices, a hotel, residential and long-term care accommodation. Part of the St. Luke's International Hospital campus. Sushi is a traditional Japanese dish made with vinegared rice, sushi meshi, typically seasoned with sugar and salt, and combined with a variety of ingredients, nita, such as seafood, vegetables, or meat. Raw seafood is the most common, although some may be cooked. While sushi comes in numerous styles and presentation, the defining component is the vinegared rice, also known as sheri or sumeshi. The modern form of sushi is believed to have been created by Hanaya Yohei, who invented nigirizushi, the most commonly recognized type today, in which seafood is placed on hand-pressed vinegared rice. This innovation occurred around 1824 in the Edo period, 1603 to 1867. It was the fast food of the Chinin class in the Edo period. Sushi is traditionally made with medium-grain white rice, although it can also be prepared with brown rice or short-grain rice. It is commonly prepared with seafood, such as squid, eel, yellowtail, salmon, tuna, or imitation crab meat. Certain types of sushi are vegetarian. It is often served with pickled ginger, gari, wasabi, and soy sauce. Daikon radish or pickled daikon, takwan, are popular garnishes for the dish. Sushi is sometimes confused with sashimi, a dish that consists of thinly sliced raw fish or occasionally meat, without sushi rice. A dish known as nerazushi, matured fish, stored in fermented rice for possibly months at a time, has been cited as one of the early influences for the Japanese practice of applying rice on raw fish. The fish was fermented with rice vinegar, salt, and rice, after which the rice was discarded. Nerazushi is also called honer, meaning fully fermented, as opposed to namane, meaning partially fermented, a type of sushi that appeared in the Muromachi period. Fermented fish using rice, such as nerazushi, originated in Southeast Asia where it was made to preserve freshwater fish, possibly in the Mekong River basin, which is now Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam, and in the Irrawaddy River basin, which is now Myanmar. The first mention of a nerazushi-like food is in a Chinese dictionary thought to be from the 4th century, in this instance referring to salted fish that had been placed in cooked or steamed rice, which caused it to undergo a fermentation process via lactic acid. Fermentation methods following similar logic in other Asian rice cultures include burong isda, balau-balau, and tinapayan of the Philippines, pekasam of Indonesia and Malaysia, plara of Thailand, ck of Korea, and bohok or chua of Vietnam. The lacto-fermentation of the rice prevents the fish from spoiling. When wet field rice cultivation was introduced during the Yayoi period, lakes and rivers would flood during the rainy season and fish would get caught in the rice paddy fields. Pickling was a way to preserve the excess fish and guarantee food for the following months, and nerazushi became an important source of protein for Japanese consumers. The term sushi literally means sour tasting, as the overall dish has a sour and umami or savory taste. Nerazushi still exists as a regional specialty, notably as funazushi from Shiga Prefecture. Until the early 19th century, sushi slowly changed with Japanese cuisine. The Japanese started eating 3 meals a day, rice was boiled instead of steamed, and of large importance was the development of rice vinegar. During the Muromachi period, 1336 to 1573, the Japanese invented a style of sushi called namane or naminari, which means partially fermented. The fermentation period of namane was shorter than that of the earlier nerazushi, and the rice used for fermentation was also eaten with the fish. In other words, with the invention of namane, sushi changed from a preserved fish food to a food where fish and rice are eaten together. After the appearance of namane, sake and sake lees were used to shorten fermentation, and vinegar was used in the Edo period. During the Edo period, 1603 to 1867, a third type of sushi, hyazushi, fast sushi, was developed. Hyazushi differed from earlier sushi in that instead of lactic fermentation of rice, vinegar, a fermented food, was mixed with rice to give it a sour taste so that it could be eaten at the same time as the fish. Previously, sushi had evolved with a focus on shortening the fermentation period, but with the invention of hyazushi, which is simply mixed with vinegar, the fermentation process was eliminated and sushi became a fast food. Many types of sushi known in the world today, such as chirashi sushi, scattered sushi, inari sushi, inari sushi, makizushi, rolled sushi, and nigirizushi, hand-pressed sushi, were invented during this period, and they are a type of hyazushi. Each region utilizes local flavors to produce a variety of sushi that has been passed down for many generations. A 1689 cookbook describes hyazushi, and a 1728 cookbook describes pouring vinegar over hakozushi, box sushi, square sushi made by filling a wooden frame with rice. Nigirizushi. Today's style of nigirizushi, hand-pressed sushi, consisting of an oblong mound of rice with a slice of fish draped over it, became popular in Edo, contemporary Tokyo, in the 1820s or 1830s. One common story of the origin of nigirizushi is of the chef Hanaya Yohei, 1799 to 1858, who invented or perfected the technique in 1824 at his shop in Rigoku. The nigirizushi of this period was somewhat different from modern nigirizushi. The sushi rice of this period was about 3 times the size of today's nigirizushi. The amount of vinegar used was half that of today's sushi, and the type of vinegar developed during this period, called akasu, red vinegar, was made by fermenting sake lees. They also used slightly more salt than in modern times instead of sugar. Seafood served over rice was prepared in a variety of ways. This red vinegar was developed by Nakono Matazeman, who is the founder of Miskan, a company that still develops and sells vinegar and other seasonings today. The dish was originally termed Edomi Zushi as it used freshly caught fish from the Edome, Edo or Tokyo Bay. The term Edomi Nigirizushi is still used today as a byword for quality sushi, regardless of its ingredients' origins. In 1958, Yoshioki Shiraishi opened the first conveyor belt sushi restaurant, Kaiten Zushi, named Genroku Zushi in Higoshi, Osaka. In conveyor belt sushi restaurants, conveyor belts installed along tables and counters in the restaurant transport plates of sushi to customers. Generally, the bill is based on the number of plates, with different colored plates representing the price of the sushi. When Genroku Sushi opened a restaurant at the Japan World Exposition, Osaka, 1970, it won an award at the expo, and conveyor belt sushi restaurants became known throughout Japan. In 1973, an automatic tea dispenser was developed, which is now used in conveyor belt sushi restaurants today. When the patent for conveyor belt sushi restaurants expired, a chain of conveyor belt sushi restaurants was established, spreading conveyor belt sushi throughout Japan and further popularizing and lowering the price of sushi. By 2021, the conveyor belt sushi market had grown to 700 billion yen and spread outside Japan. Sushi is commonly eaten with condiments. Sushi may be dipped in shu, soy sauce, and is usually flavored with wasabi, a piquant paste made from the grated stem of the Wasabia japonica plant. Japanese-style mayonnaise is a common condiment in Japan on salmon, pork, and other sushi cuts. Gari, sweet, pickled ginger, is eaten in between sushi courses to both cleanse the palate and aid in digestion. In Japan, green tea, ocha, is invariably served together with sushi. Better sushi restaurants often use a distinctive premium tea known as mecca. In sushi vocabulary, green tea is known as agari. Sushi may be garnished with gobo, grated daikon, thinly sliced vegetables, carrots, radishes, and cucumbers that have been shaped to look like flowers, real flowers, or seaweed salad. Unlike sashimi, which is almost always eaten with chopsticks, nigirizushi is traditionally eaten with the fingers, even in formal settings. Although it is commonly served on a small platter with a side dish for dipping, sushi can also be served in a bento, a box with small compartments that hold the various dishes of the meal. Soy sauce is the usual condiment, and sushi is normally served with a small sauce dish or a compartment in the bento. Traditional etiquette suggests that the sushi is turned over so that only the topping is dipped to flavor it. The rice, which has already been seasoned with rice wine vinegar, sugar, salt, mirin, and kombu, would otherwise absorb too much soy sauce and would fall apart. Traditionally, the sushi chef will add an appropriate amount of wasabi to the sushi while preparing it, and the diner should not add more. However, today, wasabi is more a matter of personal taste, and even restaurants in Japan may serve wasabi on the side for customers to use at their discretion, even when there is wasabi already in the dish.